Okay, currently it is 6:32. I'd like to call to order the Board of Adjustments meeting for Wednesday, March the 28th, 2023. Okay. As authorized by Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, this meeting may be convened to an executive closed session for the purpose of seeking confidential legal information from the city attorney at any time. Anytime. The City Board of Adjustments reserves the right to reconvene, realign the regular session, or call executive session order for business at any time prior to adjournment. Okay. The public announcement portion here, if you're not able to attend in person, you may complete a citizen's input form at the city website by 3:30 the day of the meeting. All forms will be forwarded to the board prior to the start of the meeting. If anyone in the audience needed to complete a form, you need to hustle real quick, get it over to Susan, but I think we're fine. All right. In-person comments for the registered forms are available at the city front door here in the chamber. Okay. At this point, we call the meeting to order. I have a section here for citizens input. Anyone in the audience who's completed the form has 3 minutes to make comment or take up to the audience here, and no action can be taken by the board at this point because it's not on the current agenda. Anyone in the audience wish to comment this evening? I see no one wishing to comment during citizens' input. So we have to consider the approval of the minutes from the Board of Adjustments meeting from November 9th, 2022. Everyone read the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve is read.
We have a motion from Stanley to approve. We have a second? Second from Tony. We all need to vote. Okay, that's unanimous. That is approved. Okay, action items. Conduct a public hearing to take action on request by Jimmy McClock, excuse me, I mispronounced that, for a 6-foot fence, front setback on a property zone family residence SF10 district, subject property located at 2506 Dow Rock, northeast of Dow Rock Road on McClure Lane intersection. CK and JC Edition, Lot 1, City of Rolette. And we have a piece from the city engineer, sorry.
So, board members, as was read into the record, this is a request to allow a fence that exceeds 3 feet in height in the front yard. So, a little background, the subject property is zoned for SF10. The Code of Ordinances states that no fence in a front yard shall exceed 3 feet in height, and the owner is requesting approval of a 6-foot high fence along Dow Rock Road. So, more background. A permit was approved in 2021 to build a new home. The fence that is requested is a 20 feet from the front property line, and it is zoned SF10, and the setback in SF10 property is 25 feet. So anything in front of the front facade of the building would be within the front yard of the house and would be subject to the 3-foot maximum height. And so the applicant here has declared that a justification for the fence is for privacy and an extension of existing fences on neighboring lots. So I'll go into a little more detail on this, providing documentation on what has been there. If you can see, in May of 2015, the slide on the left, there was a fence that was adjacent to a home that was That fence, as you can see, let's see if I can get this to work, is in this area, and there is wrought iron between the fence columns. In November of 2018, you can see that the wrought iron has been removed between the fence columns. And we'll look at the next area. You can see in March of 2021, wood was added to these areas, which we will deal with as a code violation. Now that it has been brought to my attention that this does exist and it will be required to comply with the ordinance. And then you can see in 2022, the new fence was constructed on this lot. And the columns and these areas between the columns do exceed 3 feet. So the fire department has indicated that they do have concerns with public safety and has stated the following reasons for their opposition to the variance. They feel that a fence would hinder police patrol, in essence creating a compound of sorts where persons, items, and contraband can be concealed from law enforcement, as well as criminal-minded persons can hide from law enforcement detection. The second issue is that it creates a place that cannot be observed for code violations by code enforcement without a warrant. And third item is a 6-foot-tall wall creates an expectation of privacy that all other citizens are not allotted unless they also construct a 6-foot screening fence around their property. And it also sends a message to others that they should fence or wall their property in the front yard. So the considerations here is that Section 2-75B of our Code of Ordinances allows the Board of Appeals to consider the request for a 6-foot fence in the front setback. So when you're acting as a Board of Appeals, the board does have the powers and duties to perform those delegated issues and consider appeals to the provisions of chapters 26 and 78 of the Code of Ordinances. And when acting as the Board of Appeals, a quorum does constitute a simple majority of the membership. And matters coming before the board may be approved or denied as the case may be by a simple majority vote. So to clarify that, when you're sitting as the Board of Adjustment, state law requires you to have a 75% number of the voting membership in order to approve the variance. And if you don't have a 75% vote, that variance cannot be approved. That does not apply in this case. In a simple majority, if you have 5 people tonight, 3 people voted in favor would approve the variance in this case. And so you do have the authority and the ability to act on this request tonight. The denial of the request, the application showed a self-imposed hardship and the front fence would create health and safety concerns. And to provide a little more background on this, there was a permit application that was submitted in 2020. That permit was denied. And it showed a front fence. The permit was resubmitted in 2021. It was also turned down. A new permit was submitted approximately a week later, and that permit said the fence would be no taller than 3 feet. That permit was approved. However, when the fence was built, it was higher than 3 feet. And so that's where we are tonight, is that the permit that was issued was for a 3-foot fence. The fence that was constructed was higher than 3-foot fence. The applicant is now requesting approval of something that exceeds 3 feet. And he's asking the board for approval of that. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have. The applicant is here to present any case that you might have or answer any questions that you might have of the applicant.
I have a question. Can you hear me, or do I need to use a microphone?
Best use microphone.
It's best for the recording.
Or yes.
So they're wanting to put the fence 20 feet from the property line, not 25. Is that the issue? Or is it just that it's a 6-foot fence even if they put it on or away from the setback line toward their property?
So the way the ordinance reads is that anything in front of the front facade of the building is considered front yard.
Okay, so it's just not a matter of it being 20 feet, which is within the 25-foot setback. It's a matter of it being in the front.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I understand. So the fence that's existing on you're facing the property on the left that has a 3-foot base and then the columns with the wrought iron, that's acceptable
That,
or not?
when it was there, it was a non-conforming fence at some point. It was modified over a few years without a permit, without approvals. And so,
When they put the wood in?
yes.
Yes, but with the wrought iron, it was okay, or,
That,
because the columns are taller, but the base is lower than 3 feet?
so I would say that under the current ordinances, it does not comply. Because those columns did, and I had someone point out to me today even, that because there was an argument that was made that the fence, the columns do not constitute the fence. But the reality is the columns are meant to support the fence. And so for those columns to exceed by a few inches the 3-foot height would probably not trigger a violation. But being as tall as they are, they do trigger a violation.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking these questions, so if the owner, the applicant, were to remove the wood and put wrought iron like there was prior to, would that be approved?
That would be, it would not be something that staff could approve, but it is something that the board could approve as a condition of the variance.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
How many lanes is Dow Rock? Is that the road that the lot is adjacent to?
So there's, I believe that there are 2 lanes on Dow Rock on each side of the median.
Okay, so it's 4 lane divided. Is there a screening requirement along Dow Rock?
Not for a single lot. Now, if it was a subdivision where there were multiple lots in there, that's probably going to be a better question for Mr. Monsalve.
Yeah, I can quickly respond to that. The code does anticipate screening requirements for houses that are either on the side or backyard to those major streets. And so if it is fronting on that street, then the same requirement would apply of a 3-foot maximum for the front yard.
But the pictures, it looked like it was fronting north. What determines the orientation of front?
Street. The street will determine the frontage.
Okay.
Another question, would live screening be within the requirements of the ordinance? So could they plant some bushes instead of having a structure?
That's something we typically don't get into calling as a violation would be live screening.
Right, at least per my recollection of the code, I don't believe we regulate the height of shrubs. We do have a minimum requirement in commercial districts and things of that sort as they relate to the front yard of buildings and things of that sort, but in terms of a maximum height, we do not typically regulate that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of options, depending on what the board majority decides on this issue, if there's other options, because I certainly do understand their desire to have screening for noise and visibility from Dow Rock, because it's noisy and, you know, they don't want to see it and they don't want people seeing them, so, and I also understand the requirements of the ordinance, so just trying to see the bigger picture of this. Thank you.
Two questions. First one, what is the difference, I was interested in the fire department's take on fencing where it's enabling contraband and nefarious individuals. What's the difference between that fence and my backyard fence?
So, I think that the big concern that the fire department has is that, talking with the fire marshal briefly today, the big concern is that is the front of the house. Zoning attempts to make that open, to create an open space and make it access easy for people to access the front door of a home. The concern here, talking with him, is people could hide easily behind the fence, use it to attack someone or to do something behind it. The same could be said for trees, you know, if the tree is big enough, but the concern that they're having with that is that it's the intent with the front yard was to keep that open and visible so that as people drove down, they didn't just see a large wall along the entire length of the road.
The second one is probably more a city planning question. There seems to be a desire, Dow Rock has a lot of these conditions, and I know some of the other old farm roads that have been rezoned are wanting to push these houses to within the 25 feet of these roads that are high congestion. What is the driver for that? What is the reason for wanting to do that?
There are several reasons that you can consider. Specifically to the city of Rowlett, we have two different codes. As you're familiar, the Rowlett Development Code and the Form-Based Code. The condition you're mostly speaking to is the Form-Based Code, which does not necessarily relate specifically to this area, but you will see that a lot in the North Shore, Liberty Grove areas as well, where, you're pushing buildings between that 20, 30-foot line. When it comes to regular rural areas, or even Rowlett Development Code, there are minimum setbacks such as 50 feet. And so we don't actually regulate those buildings moving forward as much as just a regular setback, as long as you're behind that 50-foot line or 30-foot line, depending on the district, that will be the case. And so in this case, it just so happens that the previous home was also located very similarly located to what this is. And they seem to have followed a very similar standard, perhaps influenced by the slab location. But ultimately, there is no such planning drive to bring this house forward as a code requirement.
Any other questions from the board members? Okay, thank you. I apologize for me jumping out of sequence here. That was item 4, not the 4A I announced several minutes ago. The gentleman, family requesting the variance would like to come forward and speak to the board. Pretty good, sir. You state your name and address for the board.
Absolutely. My name is Jonathan McClintock. My wife Stephanie, our sons Joseph and any day Jimmy. We're the owners of 2506 as well as 2514 Dow Rock. I want to thank you for your time and considering this very request. I'm going to read a quick statement I prepared and then would like to address a few of the issues Dale had brought up that I wasn't aware were coming up, but I certainly would like to address those as well. Growing up in Rockwell my whole life, graduated class of '97. Today I still live in or work in Rockwell with my father building commercial properties. I'm only telling you this because I'm not here as a home builder, I'm not here as a developer, I'm not here to flip the house, I'm not here to sell it anytime soon. This is going to be a house that we have for a long time. We've already invested nearly 5 years into this property, so I can assure you we're not going anywhere at this point, considering what it's taken to get us in the house only 6 weeks ago. Today, if you go to page 1.
Is that photo?
Sorry.
No. Oh, there's one.
So as you can see here, today there's a roughly 3/10 of a mile that currently has a 6-foot stone wall. Starts around 2509 Dow Rock and goes to 2514 Dow Rock. You can see here, here's the sections where it starts. It's a variety of styles, colors. You can see some sections have metal railings, some sections have none, and they're stone all the way to from the bottom to the top. But all of them are 6 feet tall. This 6-foot section extends all the way to the end here. The only section that is missing is an 80-foot section that's in front of this house. Out of the entire 3/10 of a mile. So there's one small 80-foot section that does not have a 6-foot wall. Right down the street, just a few hundred feet from me, again, you can see there's a gated community there. Dale had mentioned this. There's actually, we own 2 lots. We have 2 lots because we are planning on building a second house, which was something that we discussed thoroughly with Dale. Eventually, God willing, my parents, they're getting older, almost 80 years old now. They will move into the house we just built, and we will build another house on the adjacent lot. So eventually, we're planning on having 2 homes there. That's why we came to the agreement to do the shared driveway, which I have filed paperwork with the city of Rockwell to get that done. I've done everything in the world the city of Rowlett has asked me to do. I have connected to the city sewer line. I paid out of my own pocket to extend the city sewer line so I could connect to it and not have to use the septic system that was there with the original house. So I have spent a lot of time, effort, filed more permits than you can imagine to get us to where I am today. I understand the city's variance request. They consider this a privacy issue, but I can assure you this is much more than a privacy issue. It's much more than a security issue. It is a safety issue for my children. A 3-foot wall doesn't do much. My son today could climb over a 3-foot wall. With the current construction that's happening now at I-30 and the talks of expanding Dow Rock, I could very well be looking at years of construction right in front of my house. A lot of foot traffic there, but you know, traffic itself sits for, I don't know how far, but well past my house every single day. I have a line of traffic sitting there. I would like to go over the line items that the city has brought to you. First, regarding the hindering police patrol, in essence creating a compound of sorts where a person's items and contraband can be concealed from law enforcement, as well as criminal-minded persons can hide from law enforcement detection. I think he kind of said it, you know, setting that wall, if I move that wall 15 feet back to the side of the property, or the side of the house, it wouldn't be an issue. I'm only requesting this because there's the existing 3-foot wall that spans the entire length, and just for the look and aesthetics of it, would look odd to have a 6-foot wall across the whole thing, all of a sudden a 3-foot wall, and then back to a 6-foot wall. I'm not asking for anything where I would be a unique scenario. I'm asking to basically allow me to complete something that is already there. They've approved the 3-foot wall, and let me say this, I'll backtrack a little bit. He had stated, you know, they approved the 3-foot wall. As of today, I have the 6-foot columns. As of today, you can see the picture. The wall has not been completed because I don't know if you guys can appreciate construction in today's world, but it's hard to get anybody to do anything right. I have pictures of this wall that was built at 3-foot flat across the board. We came back the next day and the guys had already built the columns. Asked them, why did you do it? They're like, that's what you have over here. We figured that's what we were supposed to do. So it was nothing that was intentional. I wasn't trying to be sneaky or try to get around something. I've realized working with Rowlett, it's never worth trying to do something undercover. I can appreciate doing things by the book, but it was certainly not done with malice intent in any way. Second item, creates a place that cannot be observed for code violations by the code enforcement department. You can see now there's 2 sections where the gates will be. Both sections will be metal gates that you can clearly see through, that wouldn't require a quote-unquote permit, or a quote-unquote, what are they saying, a warrant. I understand where they're coming from that aspect, but I just don't feel like that's a valid point. There's plenty of line sight where you can be able to see behind the property. And again, a 15-foot difference, if I move that wall 15 feet back to touch the side of the house, is that 15 feet of this 2 acres really, I mean, you're saying I can't see 15 feet when I have 2 acres behind me that you can't see. So there's a certain amount of flexibility I can appreciate, but again, there's not much that I'm asking for there. A 6-foot wall creates expectations of privacy that other citizens are not allotted unless they construct a 6-foot fence. I know any citizen has the right to come in here and speak to you guys, request a variance, and it is your determination to say whether that variance is meets your criteria. Again, I'm not asking to be a unique home on the road. I'm simply asking to complete a section of wall that extends for over a quarter mile already. Sends a message to others that they should build a wall in front of their house. You know, I don't feel like this sends a message to anybody that that has the ability to look at other homes right across the street. If you look across the street, there's a single-family home with no houses anywhere to the right or left of it that is surrounded on all 4 sides by a 5-foot metal fence. In front of the house, behind the house, sides of the house, the whole thing is surrounded. So I'm not asking for anything that's not already currently there. I'm simply asking to let me build something that is visually nice and is conformed to what's already been built. Just to go back on what Dale had mentioned regarding the wood slats. So to give you a quick history on the property, we purchased the first lot, 2514, again, almost 5 years ago. Started working on plans for the home, got through it. We'd come visit the house because at the time we were living in Frisco. And we would have, I'll say, issues with the gentleman that was in that house. He was a renter, the previous house that we demolished. Our final straw was the day we went out there and saw a trench was dug onto our property that turned out to be the house sewer septic tank had broken. So he had dug a ditch into our property and was pumping sewage into the ditch onto our property. At that point, we pretty much had it, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like I had one option, and that was to buy that house, or sell the property, and just walk away from it. But these certain circumstances just weren't going to work for us. So during that time, obviously things came to a halt because now we had another house we had to deal with. During that time, the metal that was on those gates, we've had a horrible, horrible time with theft and robbery. During construction, the house got broken into several times, had the air conditioning stolen, not to mention thousands of dollars worth of wood, stone, everything you can imagine was taken from that property during construction. But before that even happened, somebody came and took those metal wrought irons in between there. That's why when you look at that one picture, the iron's missing. We replaced it with wood strictly because, one, we liked the look of it, but two, was not aware that I needed to get a new permit to replace what had been stolen. It was my assumption, and maybe I shouldn't have assumed it, that since other sections of the wall were solid from top to bottom, that it would be okay for me to do the wood. Now that I sit here today, I think, oh, maybe I should have called before that, but I didn't. We installed the wood. I fessed up to it. Like I've done during this whole project, I am more than willing to work with the city to rectify it, to fix it. But, I come to you today as a father more than anything. I got 2 kids, I got pets, a 3-foot wall in front of the house. It doesn't do much for security, for privacy, for everything. So I'm just requesting that you allow us to take this existing 3-foot wall that has been approved and raise it 3 feet to match what is already there, what spans from basically I-30 all the way to our house. I think it's going to look really good. It's going to be very uniform to what's already there. And all we're trying to do is improve the community, We tore down the house, built a beautiful house, again, to improve the community. So I would certainly appreciate any willingness to let us do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, thank you. Did the board members have a question?
What material is that, what you constructed? What is that material?
The wall,
Yes.
it's cinder block. We basically matched exactly what was there before.
And you're wanting to extend the cinder block wall to have a 6-foot cinder block wall fence in front of your house?
Yes, the cinder block wall is already 6 foot on the 2514. The 80-foot section in front of the 2506, there was nothing there before. The city approved the 3-foot, which is basically up to the columns, but the columns themselves add the additional 3 feet to make it 6.
Okay, so you're not asking to extend between the columns to
No,
6
ma'am.
feet?
No,
Okay.
ma'am. Not at all. We were
That's-
planning on,
Okay, that's what I thought I
Yeah,
heard you
we-
say, and I thought a 6-foot cinder block fence doesn't really conform with what's built to the south,
yes,
which
ma'am.
is a masonry type veneer.
Yes, correct. But since we had already owned the 2514 and obviously weren't going to demolish that wall, we just wanted to replicate what we had.
So you want to do what you've already done on the other lot?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we
That's
just
what
wanted,
you're asking?
we want to duplicate it, as well as the fence. You know, we'll basically duplicate the wall, the fence, everything. Again, the fence is metal, wrought iron that you can easily see through. And let me say this, a couple weeks ago, I got an email from the city asking if I would be willing to take out one of the wooden sections and replace it with wrought iron. That way it was more visible. I responded back, says, you know, I'm willing to do it. I don't want to do it, considering I already have the metal gates that you can see through. But I'm willing to do anything I need to do to, you know, make this happen. Of course, right after, you know, 2 weeks later, I received an email saying that they were going to, you know, deny it, and I'd have to appeal it here. So it was my understanding that they were willing to work with me on it, but then not sure what changed, but here we are.
Thank you.
This one.
Mr. McLennan, make sure I understand, I'm kind of confused now. Are you saying that you want to put wood slats in the unfinished wall that's in front of the new house? Or you want to put wrought iron?
I would like to do wood, but I am not opposed to wrought iron. You know, at the end of the day, like I said, it's a safety issue for my children. I don't want them to be able to climb over that little 3-foot section onto Dow Rock, one of the busiest roads in Raleigh. You know, I'm right there next to I-30, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of backed up traffic. It is really a safety issue for my children and pets.
So the southern closest to the garage in the house, driveway, that is open right now on that picture. You're planning on putting another wrought iron fence like it is on the northern part where your driveway comes back
The
out?
opening, yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. So it will be similar, if not the same, as the one to the north?
They will be duplicated, yes, sir.
Okay. And you're gonna build a house, your plans is to build another house on the northern part of that property, between you and the next neighbor up the road.
Yes, sir. The 2514 lot extends all the way down to the waterfront. So
Okay.
we're planning on building a waterfront home.
So are you adverse to taking the wood slats out and putting wrought iron like it was back in 2015, 2013? I think it actually goes back to 2000, maybe 12. The wrought iron, I think you said that was stolen out of there,
Yes, sir.
and putting that back where the whole fence all the way down to South Bay matches.
I'm not opposed to anything my wife is not opposed to.
She had to step out.
Yeah, well, my son rules the world these days, so.
So,
Ideally, I would like the wood, but again, we are not opposed to, I mean, our main concern is the safety of the boys off the Dow Rock. And I know the city, we've talked to them, and they're planning on extending Dow Rock. And it's for 35, 30 feet from Dow Rock from our front door. It is very unnerving as it is now until we get it approved. When we're getting them out of the car, it is like, you know, you have to be careful on that rock, and there's a lot of chaos there. So we're not opposed, we would like to have the wood, but
okay.
Yeah, the wood just adds, more than anything, it's a sound
the
barrier.
sound barrier,
I have a fire truck with its sirens on, blowing by my house 3 to 5 times a day. Every day. Guaranteed in the morning, guaranteed in the evening, sometimes in the afternoon. But listen, as you all know, it's a noisy street, you know. Even when there's traffic and cars are backed up, people blaring their music, people with their loud, you know, mufflers, it's noisy, which we knew it was gonna be. I'm not, you know, saying that. I mean, it is what it is, but for us, anything would help.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from board members? Okay. Thank you, Mr. McClellan. At this time, I'll try to get it proper. On 4A is to conduct a public hearing to take action on request from Jimmy Maglock for a 6-foot fence in front of the setback on the property zone SF10 district, subject to property location 2506 Dow Rock Northeast Dow Rock Road, McClure Lane, and this actually is in Rockwall County. So anyone open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing? I see no one wishing to speak during the public hearing, so we can close the public hearing at 7:14 p.m. At this point in time, I'll look to the board members for any discussion they wish to have on the board or any motions. Stanley?
I'm certainly not opposed for him to continue the wall/fence on down to South Bay. I would like to see, though, it go back to wrought iron in the fence all the way down, from one property line to the other, the north to the south end. If he puts a house in, I understand what he's talking about the sound, but being that close to at least the existing house at this time, being that close, I really don't see that that's going to really change the noise level that much. You can always move his other house back, because that goes all the way back to the take line into the lake. The noise, he can back that house off if he so desires. But I would like to, that fence has been there, /wall, been there at least going back to 2012. If you go on Google Maps and look at that, I think on my computer anyway, 2012 is as far as street view goes. And it's very close to that. I think that what he's talking about, there was an old white house, frame house there just to the north of the brick house. And is that the guy that was, it may have been that dumped his sewage over.
Yeah.
And I cleared that house and it's totally gone, but that wall goes back quite a ways. And for him to match it across there, it being even, not offset or anything, I don't have a problem. But I would like to have go back to all the way down from one line to the other with a wrought iron.
That iron does seem to be pretty consistent across that whole section of Dow Rock. Iron inserts.
If you look at South Bay, the wall there is both brick and wrought iron as well.
Tony?
Can we ask the city to clarify what broke down with the discussions about going back with wrought iron? Was there something on the city side that caused that to no longer be an option from the city's point of view?
I was not part of that discussion, and so I don't know if it was one of the planners that had that discussion, but I was not part of it. I was unaware of it until tonight.
Would that be, is that something that the city would consider a compromise to provide the safety that's needed and also meet the fire marshal's need for visibility?
I think it would be an option. I think the reason why with our recommendation was more concerns we did receive from fire. When I did speak to Thomas Cooper today, he said he would be open to that, but I just don't think those discussions advance any further.
I think I'd like to join in a resolution maybe to do the wrought iron as a solution.
Okay. We have, currently on the diocese, we have 4 regular members, 2 alternates, and the young lady here, Christy is going to be an alternate voting with us tonight. This time, do you want to make a motion and a second coming up?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant a waiver to the zoning ordinance, allowing the continuation of the 3-foot fence with columns, and at the end of the current 3-foot that it is, then inserting wrought iron for the completion for the next 3 feet, take out the wood slats and put in wrought iron, where it's wrought iron from one property line to the other down.
So we have a motion from Mr. Pollock to basically insert wrought iron in the openings and to insert wrought iron where the wood is at currently.
Correct.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Donna. Okay, we need to call the vote. Looks like you have unanimous approval. Thank you for your time. At this point, we'll adjourn the Board of Adjustments meeting. Thank you.